inviting me to be here. Merci, chers collègues, for inviting me here today on the, as was just mentioned,
Thank you, dear colleagues.
Territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe to discuss the supplemental estimates and answer your questions. Right now, Canada stands at a pivotal moment. Faced with global volatility, a changing climate, technological revolution, particularly in AI, and an affordability crisis, it is clear our old ways of doing business no longer serve us well. As Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, I hear a common message from coast to coast to coast. Canadians want us to leverage our resource abundance to become an energy and natural resources superpower. That means diversifying our exports to those who share our values, not just our borders, growing our economy to be the strongest in the G7, and using our energy and natural resources to build lasting prosperity at home and fund the programs and services Canadians rely on. This is why we are undertaking what I have called a wartime-like effort to retool our economy, unlock our domestic resources, and accelerate our major projects with provinces and territories, Indigenous partners, and industry. Our government's core mission, much of it led by Natural Resources Canada, is to build Canada strong by empowering Canadians, strengthening our economic security, and seizing new opportunities while carrying out vital work in areas like forestry, mining, energy, wildfire management, and clean technologies. This work will give us more than any foreign government can take away from Canadians. You see this ambition in the budget 2025 is our climate competitiveness strategy and in our efforts through the Major Projects Office, all of which will help ensure Canada leads in both conventional and clean energy and clean technology. We will make sure it seizes the opportunities that lie in the global shift towards a low-carbon energy and secure supply chains for our allies and for ourselves. We cannot control what other nations do, but we can control how and what we build here in Canada. Comme le dit souvent le Premier Ministre,
as our Prime Minister often says, we can give ourselves more than anyone else can take away from us.
The new Major Projects Office. We have already referred 2 waves of nation-building projects, including critical mineral projects, new transmission infrastructure, LNG terminals to the West Coast, the G7's first small modular reactors, offshore wind and potential transmission in Atlantic Canada, and major projects that expand the Port of Montreal and get Iqaluit off of diesel power. Taken together, these projects will get Canadian resources to global markets faster. They are expected to attract almost $116 billion of investment, create thousands of good jobs, and strengthen energy security while reducing emissions. The supplemental estimates for 2025-26 advance these goals by increasing Natural Resource Canada's reference levels by $50.3 million, bringing the department's total budget to $5.23 billion. One example is the Defence Stockpiling Initiative that I announced while hosting the G7 Environment and Energy Ministers meeting at the end of October. A transfer of $23.3 million from the Department of National Defence under the Defence Industrial Strategy, which will support a defence stockpiling regime that accelerates domestic critical minerals processing for defence and dual-use applications. The estimates also support our work with National Defence to assess the feasibility of nuclear microreactors to supply reliable heat and electricity for remote and northern bases of operations. In both my past life and this role, it has been clear that we can only build Canada strong in partnership with Indigenous peoples, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, which is why these estimates also include Indigenous equity and ownership in major projects through the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program, so that Indigenous communities can be full partners in Canadian resource development. Together, these targeted investments reflect a bigger story. Natural Resources Canada, like the rest of our new government, is focused on delivery, not delay. We are using our natural advantages to build Canada strong while centering clean growth, innovation, investment certainty, reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and greater security in a turbulent world. Je pense que nous sommes tous d'accord.
I think that we are all in agreement in saying that our vast natural resources constitute one of our greatest advantages.
Developing these resources will allow us to grow our economy, enhance our climate competitiveness, and become an energy superpower. Colleagues, the wealth of our country lies in these vast resources, but our greatness as a nation lies in how we choose to harness them. With the support of Parliament, these investments will help Canada unlock our full potential as a nation, secure our energy future, and ensure prosperity for all Canadians. I look forward to our discussion today. Thank you. Merci. Now is the time to act. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Minister. And we will now turn to questions, and we're going to start with Mr. Chambers for 6 minutes. Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Chair. Minister, it's a pleasure to see you here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. You have a big job. Forgive my brevity, but I have a few questions here, so I don't want you to take it the wrong way. I'm curious about the process for the Major Projects Office. Who makes the final decision about whether a project is referred to the MPO? Is that a decision that you make personally? Is that one that Cabinet makes? Is that one that the Prime Minister makes? Who holds that decision right?
So projects come forward from either industrial proponents who choose to bring them directly to the MPO or through the department, the relevant department. They can be brought forward by a province or territorial government, and oftentimes the province and territorial governments are very close to what's going on in their particular jurisdiction. They're often working with these proponents, and they often contact us and ask for us to meet with them. They also can come forward from Indigenous groups. So
I sort of cut you off, as I mentioned before, about brevity, but my question isn't how they come forward. My question is when they are referred, who makes the final decision about how to refer that project, or how does it get on that list? Is that a decision that you hold by yourself, or is that a decision that Cabinet makes, or is it a decision the Prime Minister makes?
So projects get screened by the Major Projects Office. Yes. Once the Major Projects Office thinks they may be of help, those projects are presented to the Build Canada Committee. The Build Canada Committee reviews those projects and then presents ones that get through to Minister LeBlanc as the minister responsible for the Privy Council. Minister LeBlanc presents them to Cabinet and then ultimately to the Prime Minister.
Okay. And so the Prime Minister is involved, obviously, throughout this process. But the final decision is a Cabinet. It sounds like it's a Cabinet decision. Is that correct?
It is a Cabinet decision, yes.
Okay. And I assume the Prime Minister's office would be consulted throughout the process before it appears in Cabinet. Are you aware of any, do you ever have one-on-one conversations with the Prime Minister about these projects, or are there always officials present?
There's always officials present.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask a question about the tanker ban? It came up in question period today. It seems that you're trying to put some distance between yourself and a previous policy decisions of a previous government. Can you state clearly that the current government would either exempt or repeal the tanker ban if oil can make it to the West Coast?
What I can say is that we will work with proponents who have proposals. We have been clear with the proponents, if they have the support of First Nations and they have support of the jurisdictions, we will work with them to clear whatever barriers there are.
So that would include clearing the barrier of the tanker ban?
I can't answer because I don't have a particular project you're talking about, so I have no idea whether...
So do you think that there's no particular proponent because it's unclear whether the government would repeal the tanker ban in order to move that product overseas?
So I don't deal in hypotheticals. If you're referring to the Alberta government has said they will work on a proposal. They will bring it in the spring of next year. And when they bring that, they have to do the work just like any other proponent. And if and when that they have done the work and they've got the support of First Nations and they have the support of the jurisdiction, we will work with them to see how we can make things happen.
Including getting rid of the tanker ban?
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals.
Okay. But do you think that there's a reason that there is no proponent loudly coming forward now is because the government is being unclear about, because, you have cabinet colleagues who clearly are wedded to the decisions of a previous government. So I guess, so you're not willing to clearly state that you'll remove that barrier?
So what I'm willing to say is that we have been talking with that proponent, the government, the potential proponent, that government of Alberta. We have been working on, as has been widely reported, memorandum of understanding. That is a work in process right now. I think we are getting close to a place, and when that gets done, we'll have some more clarity.
Okay, great. Thank you.
30 seconds, yeah.
In my remaining time, I can't help but, you've worked on both sides of the border. You have a fairly lengthy and admirable experience in America and in Canada on both sides of the business community. We're 9 months from when President Trump brought in unjustified tariffs. How long do you think the Canadian economy can survive in the current state without a deal?
So, look, we are in a trade war. It's a trade war we did not ask for. It is a trade war we have to win. President Trump has decided, for whatever reason, to change the way the entire world trades with the United States. These are difficult negotiations. What I can tell you is today, we have the best deal of any country in the world. That is in some ways cold comfort, but I want to be clear. We have the best deal of any country. No other country in the world has 85% of their trade which crosses the border tariff-free today. Now, the Americans are systematically attacking us in a series of sectors where we are working hard to mitigate that while we continue to negotiate. What we've been clear is we will not do a bad deal. When you look at the deals that other countries have done, they are much less attractive than the deal we have today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
So we're going to move on to Mr. Danko for 6 minutes. Mr. Danko.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Minister, to Natural Resources. Critical minerals have been a big focus of the Prime Minister, a big focus of the budget, and a significant focus of this committee as well. And many projects of national interest involve developing critical minerals. This committee's heard that critical minerals are essential for Canada to maintain our leadership role in a global transition to an electric future. So my first question is, how will our investment in critical minerals enable a better future for Canadians?
So I'll go back to the reality we find ourselves in today. As the Prime Minister said, we are in a hinge moment. We are in a moment of economic rupture where, for whatever reason, the United States has decided to change the way the world trades with each other. They've decided to charge for access to their market. This is a very difficult time for many countries in the world who are faced with this challenge. It is a particularly difficult time for Canada, given that we are the most integrated economy in the world with the United States. When I look at, and I know all of you watched the exchange between President Trump and President Zelensky, where it was explained to President Zelensky that he had no cards and that he needed to do the bidding of the United States at that point. I have been relentlessly focused on how do we make sure Canada never finds itself in that situation. That causes me to turn to critical minerals. We are in a global reality today where we are shifting from the post-Bretton Woods order, the fall of the Berlin Wall, where we had one unipolar world, to a much more dangerous world where we have major countries that are not democratic who are seeking to assert their political will on the world. Some of those actors have sought to corner the market in actually production of critical minerals and the processing of critical minerals. That became very apparent in the last 6 months, and particularly when one country chose to put export controls on a number of critical minerals, and that was fundamentally affecting the ability of many of our allies' economies to operate. So there is a critical point of vulnerability for the West right now. The great news for Canada is while all of our G7 allies are short critical minerals and don't have those critical minerals, we have them. If we develop them responsibly, it puts, I go back to that's right, it gives us a great set of cards. It gives us a set of cards that we need to play to get the trade deals that we want with the rest of the world. That's why critical minerals are so important. They're important for transition to a net zero in 2050 because we can't get there without the critical minerals to power that transition. But they're really important for this geopolitical reality we find ourselves in as Canadians, and that's why we are spending so much time on it. I would point to at the and our Prime Minister has actually taken a lead in that. So I would point to the committee that it was in the summer at the Kananaskis G7 that Canada put up its hand and said, we will address this challenge in supply chains. Canada will take the lead and develop what's called the Critical Minerals Buying Alliance or the Buyers Club. And Canada worked tirelessly from the summer to the time of the G7 Energy Ministers meeting at the end of October, where I won't take credit for it. My colleagues here worked incredibly hard. We announced 26 transactions with our allies, 9 different countries, every G7 ally, put money into Canadian mines and Canadian processing facilities so we can be the ones who are providing those resources both to Canada and to our allies. That puts cards in our hands. When, and I would point out the Americans were investing in some of those. It gives us cards when we are negotiating in this challenging environment so that we can deal with that 15% that we talked about a minute ago. They want our critical minerals. We will use those cards to extract the best deal that we can.
Are we not over time
Thank
here?
you, Minister, and that's your time. So,
Yeah, it was the time like a minute ago.
maintenant, Monsieur Simard, 6 minutes.
Now we will go to Mr. Simard. You have 6 minutes. You have the floor. Before I begin, I would like to ensure that the Honourable Minister is on the right channel and can hear the lovely voice of the interpreters rather than my raspy voice. Are we on?
Mario, but I can't hear it.
Merci beaucoup. Merci d'être présent, Monsieur
Thank
le
you
ministre.
so much. Thank you for being with us, Minister. Looking over the press headlines the last few days, I see some articles concerning you, Honourable Minister, the Prime Minister, and the Clerk of the Privy Council, Mr. Sirian. And I think that when it comes to the pipeline between Alberta and BC, the government seems to be its proponent, reading what I see in the press, so in the media. So I'm a little concerned about this. And, you know, I myself went through the Trans Mountain extension and the considerable amount of money that the government poured into that. So I'm on edge about the current situation. Can you assure me that the federal government is not going to be the proponent of the actual project?
Merci pour votre question.
Thank you for your question.
Mon français n'est pas bien, mais
My French is not up to the task, so I will switch to English. That's fine. Thank you.
the Alberta government has said they would like to be a proponent. They are working on a project. They have
Can
said
turn it
they
up a
will
little
bring it in the spring of 2026. I do not know what they will bring. They have not shared that with me at this point. When it comes, it will get evaluated. It will get evaluated the same way any other project would get evaluated, just like a project would in Quebec. I will be clear. The goal, and the Prime Minister has given us a KPI, a key performance indicator, that the goal of the major project is to attract $500 billion of private sector capital. That is the goal. The goal is when we attract that kind of private sector capital, it creates the new jobs and the new opportunities and the new careers for the people who may well be displaced by the trade war.
Désolé, monsieur. J'ai pas beaucoup de temps.
So unfortunate. I have to interrupt you because I will have so little time. Thank you for that answer. Let me explain why I'm putting my question and what my key concern is. I have met you before and people in the mining sector, and I know that you are good with figures. I've seen you in meetings, and you tend to understand all the economic background behind projects. When I look at the largest producers out of the oil sands, I look at pathways like Canada National Resources, Cenovus, Suncor, and others. This is 80% of the mining production in the tar sands, and these companies actually belong, 60% of them, to American interests. So I think it's questionable to say that we must develop infrastructure to break away from the American market, given the tariff war, but that we're ready to put public funds to invest in infrastructure that serves their interests. I say this, Honourable Minister, because if we look at 2021 to 2024, these oil and gas companies made extraordinary profits, $100 and some billion, $134 billion, and about $80 billion of that went from Canada and basically left Canada, were not invested in Canada. So if we calculate that rapidly, of every $10, 6 of them actually takes flight and lands in the United States. So how can we be building pipelines, spending public funds on it, seeing the profits go to the United States? That's what I'm concerned about.
So, thank you for the compliments. So let's go through some facts and figures, given the world we find ourselves in. We need cards. The United States consumes 20 million barrels a day. They consume 20 million barrels of oil a day. They claim they're an energy superpower. They produce 12. You can do the math. They are a large net importer of oil. We are a huge net exporter of oil. We produce 5 million barrels a day and send them 4. We are the largest supplier to the United States. That gives us cards. That gives us, if you look at the reserve life of the U.S. Oil reserves, they're about 7 years. That's pretty short. When you look at Canada's reserves, they're 98 years. That's pretty good. We have cards. What we need to do is be able to sell those resources to other people.
Je comprends votre
I understand that, yes, and your calculation is really excellent, but mine is as well. Even though we own these resources, they are, all said and done, basically in the hands, mostly at least, of companies that are American. And the profits, the revenues, principally go to the United States. What I've seen in the last few years is that we have paid for pipeline infrastructure that cost $34 billion, and the government paid for that infrastructure, and the revenue, the profits, went to the United States. That's what's really frightening for people today when we look at pipeline projects.
I would point out the the royalties paid on that oil to provincial governments, the income taxes paid to provincial governments and federal governments are some of the biggest single sources of revenue to governments in this country. They are important. They are important if we are going to build an economy independent, secure, and sovereign in this difficult world.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister, and thank you both. And we're going to go on to our second round of questions, and we're going to start with Mr. Tucker for 5 minutes. Mr. Tucker.
You promised a Canada Strong, elbows up platform. Remember that? Yet before the dust had even settled on the election, a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar contract was awarded to U.S. companies, allowing Americans to carry out a corporate raid on our strategic nuclear research assets at CNL. Did you approve this transaction?
That characterization of the contract is completely inaccurate.
Minister, we'll try something else. If it's not that, but will you undertake to provide the committee with the dates of every time you were briefed about this decision and any memos you received explaining it?
So the way this works is there is an RFP that gets issued.
I understand on the contract. We'll get back to that, but will you provide this committee with those documents? Yes or no?
Those documents are done by an independent agency.
It
is not the purview of this committee.
But you approved this. You approved this transaction.
Let me reiterate.
That's okay. Let's move on
let
to
me finish.
question.
You keep, and let me finish and answer the question. All of the management of the entity that is managing these activities are based in Canada.
But
95% of the every employee is in Canada.
But owned by
95%. So are you against any American company operating in Canada? I don't think that's consistent with the conservative.
It's consistent with the Elbows Up campaign you just ran.
Elbows up means lots of things. Elbows up means
Do you think this was a national interest then?
You're not letting me finish. Can I please finish?
No, I only have a limited amount of time.
Well, then let me finish answering the question, please. Elbows up means negotiating with all of the countries in the world, doubling our exports, creating alternatives to Americans. That's what we're doing.
Well, With that, sir, Canada's a world leader in the production of life-saving medical isotopes. There are concerns that the American companies engaging in a corporate raid at CNL could lead to a monopoly. This has already triggered multiple ongoing Competition Bureau investigations. Are you concerned about the Americans having a monopoly on these life-saving isotopes?
So again, your characterization
It's Competition Bureau.
is a raid is completely inaccurate. I personally have visited Darlington, where the isotopes are done, which is owned by a Canadian company, Ontario Power Generation, and I have visited Bruce Power, where those isotopes are also produced, owned by two Canadian entities, OMERS, Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System, and TC Energy. They are Canadian companies.
Then why is the Competition Bureau concerned that it's a monopoly that we're giving over to the Americans?
The competition, look, the Competition Bureau is an independent entity. It's actually not in my department. It's in ISED. So,
But they have concerns, though.
No, they're reviewing a transaction like they normally review. Look, I was in the investment banking world for my entire life. It is normal for transactions to be reviewed. Because a transaction is being reviewed, it in no way implies there's anything wrong. It's a normal process.
Okay. And then, so according to the Conflict of Interest Commission, or Interest and Ethics Commissioner, the latest report has Prime Minister Carney owning shares in BWXT, which is an American company leading the takeover at Canadian Nuclear Laboratories. It's also being investigated by the Competition Bureau, like I mentioned earlier. How can Canadians trust that it is not about lining an individual's pockets versus at the expense of Canadians?
You are, again, inferring something that just is simply not true. Our Prime Minister will, and always will comply with all of the ethics guidelines. To my knowledge, there is no inconsistency in what he has done. And the assertion or the innuendo that he's somehow doing something wrong is not consistent with what the ethics commissioner has said.
I have one last question. Regarding large conventional nuclear and CANDU and the AP1000 designs, which, in your view, is more Canadian?
That's a hypothetical.
They exist.
If what you're asking is, do we support the proponents reviewing both technologies and the proponents making a choice? Yes, we do.
Thank you both, and we're going to move on to Mr. McKinnon for 5 minutes.
He didn't like that line of questioning.
Thank you, Minister and officials. I'd like to welcome you, as do my colleagues to join us today. I'm going to branch out a bit. I want to talk about trees. So the forestry industry, as we know, is a critical part of the Canadian economy, and particularly so in British Columbia, my province. We have heard that there are tremendous opportunities to leverage investments in forestry as in terms of housing and sustainable construction. So what actions are we taking to exploit this opportunity and to grow this sector?
Thank you for that question, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart. As I think you know, when I was a young teenager, I lived in a forestry town in northern Vancouver Island, and I know how important forestry is to small towns all across this country. We are in the process of looking at how we retool our forest sector. For context, I think it's really important to understand the context. I look at the forest product sector and I see it as the canary in the coal mine. We've had free trade with the Americans theoretically since the time of Brian Mulroney, conservative prime minister, and Ronald Reagan. During that entire time, the Americans have launched trade war after trade war after trade war on the forest product sector. We're in our fifth version of that trade war. And every time we have gone to the tribunals under the Free Trade Agreement or to the WTO, we win and the Americans find another excuse to start the trade war again. That has had a very challenging impact on this sector. And quite frankly, what we're seeing now in these other sectors, the 15% we talked about, is them using the same tactics they've used on forest products for the last 30 years now in these other sectors. So we, in particular in forestry, rely heavily on exports to the United States. We need to work hard to reduce that dependence on commodity products going to the U.S. That's how we will build strong. That's how we will create reliable jobs. The Prime Minister has talked about how we do two things. One, we find new export markets for our solid wood, but most importantly, we build here in Canada to use more of our own solid wood. So the Build Canada Homes program is designed to take our annual housing starts from around 220,000, 240,000 a year to 500,000 starts a year by the end of the decade.
It's not going to happen.
That's a big goal. We have been very clear that as that goal rolls out, we would like it to be manufactured homes because that is the affordable way to build. That's the way we drive down costs of housing.
It's not.
And we have said that those manufactured homes will be built with Canadian solid wood, in particular mass timber. So to get to your question, what we are doing is we are laser focused with provinces like British Columbia, and I've spent time with Minister Parmar, who's very focused and has a shared vision. We need to be helping the commodity solid wood business evolve to the value-added mass timber business to support the rollout of Build Canada Homes. I was just a week or two ago in Castlecar, British Columbia, meeting a fantastic entrepreneurial company called Kolesnikov, a very similar company to the one in Chibougamau that you have shared, I intend to get to, where they are designing product to go from tree to sawmill to mass timber to manufactured homes and radically drive down the time it takes to build a home and the cost to build a home. If we do that, we will significantly increase the amount of solid wood we use in this country. That's how we give ourselves more than anyone can take away from us.
Thank you.
And that's what we're focused on.
Thank you. Monsieur Simard, 2.5 minutes.
Mr. Simard, you have 2.5 minutes.
It's so frustrating to listen to somebody
you
who's
very
never
much,
swung a
Jeff.
hammer talk about building houses.
Let me continue
Very
along this
frustrating.
line of thinking. The forestry sector, Honourable Minister, you had a little difference of opinion on elbows up with my colleague. You know, in French, it doesn't necessarily mean that much. If you put your elbows up, literally, it means that you have a drink together. So that would be one way of translating it. But anyway, let's not get into that. There is a proposal out now that was suggested by Chantier Chibougamau. You just mentioned them. Domtar as well, and the large unions of Quebec. And you know, right now there are about $12 billion in anti-dumping rights that are sleeping at the border. There is a suggestion that this amount might be rebought. We know that would be quite a bit to pay for the government, but these people are suggesting something new, a little easier at the end of each month. 50% of the anti-dumping rights could be bought back, countervailing as well, could be bought back by the government then every month in order to keep people up and running, keep people employed. Because we know that the entire forestry sector is built on a delicate ecosystem, and right now we're starting to cut into it, slash it here and there, and the chain is going to fall apart. So I think that this would be a very acceptable approach that does not counter our trade agreements and so on. So I'd like to hear you on that idea.
For the question. So we are in this difficult negotiation with the Americans. I'd call it, we need to be playing chess, not checkers. We are, and I personally am in regular contact with the CEOs of the various leading companies, the heads of the family businesses who own the family-owned businesses, and dealing with a number of the trade unions, including those in Quebec, including the companies you mentioned. And I was sitting with them as recently as last Friday, thinking about how we make sure the $1.2 billion we've already allocated to the industry gets allocated to their support as quickly as possible. And one of the things we've been focusing on is the liquidity support, the $700 million of liquidity support that we have provided already. I will be sitting with the heads of all of the commercial banks this evening to talk to them about making sure that that money gets to all of the companies that need it as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
That's something that I personally undertaken. I can tell you that in the conversations as recently as Friday, there is a difference of opinion around whether buying the duties would be a good thing or not.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you. We're going to go on to Monsieur Martel, 5 minutes.
You have 5 minutes, Mr. Martel. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Honourable Minister, for having joined us today. I would like to go back to the Major Projects Office. You know that in the United Kingdom, they have created a Major Projects Authority to supervise their major projects. At the outset, they basically failed on a number of files because they didn't have the right authorities to proceed. I would like to know how the Canadian government can assure us that its Major Projects Office will not run into the same quagmire.
We have an extraordinarily experienced Prime Minister who has allocated capital at the highest levels all over the world. We have a clerk of the Privy Council who is one of the most sophisticated business people that's ever held that role. And I would point out, in addition to being CEO of not, he's also CFO, so C-suite member of not one, not two, but 3 different blue chip Canadian corporations, and CEO of the second largest pension plan in the country, allocating capital. We have a chief of staff who ran the infrastructure investments of the second largest pension plan in the country. I think you know my background. I would put those backgrounds up in understanding how to get projects built against any government in the world. I would also highlight that choosing the right person to lead the major projects is an incredibly important decision. I believe it was the National Post. I believe it was Premier Smith who said they could not think of a better person to run the Major Projects Office. So the proof will be in the pudding, but I think we're doing the right things and we're putting the right people against the problem.
Well, Minister, you have visited the Saguenay and you have seen that we do have potential to market our products. And you've seen that yourself. We have wonderful facilities to ensure that my region remains prosperous, and we need ongoing projects and we need new projects. We need investment to ensure that projects come to us, and to get the investment, we need an attractive regulatory scheme. Do you think that Canada's offering that right now?
here's what I think. We should look at what CEOs are saying. We should look at what the CEO of Shell globally said, that this is the most attractive time he's ever seen to invest in Canada. We should look at the CEOs of tech and Anglo-American who've said Canada's a great place to invest. I was in the Saguenay at Rio Tinto, where they're investing, I believe it's almost $3 billion in a new aluminum smelter, because they believe Canada is a great place to invest. At the G7 ministerial meeting, we announced multiple of our G7 allies were investing in the scandium processing plant in Saguenay because they think it's a great place to invest. So,
Monsieur le ministre, excusez-moi de vous
Honorable Minister, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but given that we know that it's difficult to get permits and that each project, economic development project, depends a great deal on timing, and that we tend to miss the right timing because we can't get things through because the regulation keeps us from really keeping our heads high, on the international stage. So is anything going to be done about this?
Sure. Look, the goal is to, if something is referred to the Major Projects Office, it will get a conditions document within 2 years. If we do that, we will be best in the OECD. As someone who allocated capital, if I had that kind of clarity, I would be excited about putting money to work. Secondly, we're announcing one project, one review with each of the provinces. Let me tell you what that means. In the case of the Siliciums project in British Columbia, the British Columbia government approved that project at 4 p.m. on a Monday about a month ago. The federal government approved it at 4:30.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both. Just wrapping up this round, Mr. Danko for 5 minutes. Mr. Danko.
Thank you, Chair, and once again, thank you, Minister. I'm going to go back to economic development. And I think you spoke very eloquently about that we are currently at an inflection point in our nation's history, and you spoke about the, a fairly frank assessment of the geopolitical realities that we're facing. So natural resources have always been a cornerstone of Canada's economy since the founding of the country. So my question on economic development is, what is the scope and the scale of natural resources as part of Canada's future economic growth, and what opportunities do we have both domestically and globally to leverage the vast natural resources across this country? Thank you.
So what I have seen when I have traveled to other countries, and what I have heard from my colleagues who've also traveled to other countries, is they all want what Canada has. Whether it was in Berlin with all of the Mittelstand companies who are feeling the threat of their uncertain supply chains from a critical mineral perspective and seeing Canada as a solution, whether it's our LNG, whether it's any of our resources, they see Canada as a reliable trading partner. They see Canada as a fair trading partner. They see Canada as a country who will not use their energy or critical minerals for coercive political ends. And they see someone who shares their values. And what I hear over and over again is they want Canada. Canada provides them diversity of supply. Canada provides them the security and the sovereignty they are looking for. I was really struck when I was in Germany speaking with a number of the large utilities there. And they said to me, look, we relied on Vladimir Putin for our natural gas. that was a huge mistake. Our economies ground to a halt at the start of the Ukrainian, the war in Ukraine. It has taken them an immense amount of time to get off of that reliance. They're now being told they have to buy their LNG from another supplier. While they may be comfortable buying some of their natural gas from that supplier, they have no interest in becoming beholden to that other supplier. And by the way, when they can get Canadian LNG that is produced in the most environmentally responsible way of any LNG in the world, we have the lowest carbon intensity of any LNG producer in the world, and we do it in partnership with First Nations, they say, I like that. That's consistent with my values. If I have a choice between two suppliers, that's a supplier I want to buy from. So I use that as an example. I could do the same thing with critical minerals, where they want to buy from us, not from non-market actors who will use their critical minerals for coercion.
A couple minutes remaining, so I want to give you the opportunity to add anything else that you think was missed in this discussion.
Look, we are at a difficult time. We're at a time where we have to figure out how to win this trade war. But this trade war is also an opportunity. It's an opportunity to put our differences away and come together and re-engineer the Canadian economy so we are stronger coming out of this. The more we can diversify our economy, the more we can be that supplier of choice to our allies around the world, the more sovereign we will be, the more secure we will be, and the better off economically we will be. That's good for Canadians. That creates jobs. That creates tax revenues and royalty revenues that pay for $10 a day daycare, that pays for pharmacare, which pays for health care, which pays for the post-secondary education, be it a community college or a university. These types of resources, when we develop them in the right way, are good for Canada. And I think that's what Canadians are looking for.
Thank you, Minister. And just wondering if you have a hard stop at 4:30. That's the time that we advertise for you. We may have just a short round with members, a couple of minutes each. Yeah, so we'll, if that's okay with you. So we're going to go.
I serve at the pleasure of the committee. I do have something in a while, but I will be.
Let's go one round of questions. Let's go two, and one. How about that? So time for a quick question for you, Monsieur Simard. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you very much. The IEA has just recanted its original claim that oil demand has peaked worldwide. Do you agree with that it is now that oil demand has not peaked?
So I'm sorry to do this again, but I just fundamentally disagree with your premise. The IEA does not make predictions. The IEA provides scenarios.
But they recanted that it's not peak oil.
No, they have added scenarios. I've read the report. I've actually looked at it. They have scenarios that look at a net zero, and they have other scenarios. They have added additional scenarios.
We'll agree to disagree on that one.
Okay.
Just back to the Competition Bureau, is currently investigating the award of the management of CNL to American companies. What recourse is there if the Competition Bureau rules against them?
As someone who spent my life doing M&A, what I believe happens is If the Competition Bureau rules, they have what are called remedies. They offer remedies, and it's up to the parties to figure out whether they accept those remedies or not. It may involve the divestment of portions of the business. It may involve other remedies. Then the parties to that transaction will have to decide whether they accept those remedies. If they don't accept those remedies, I am not the agency. The agency runs that.
Then I got one quick follow-up question. When the Competition Bureau began its investigation, this resulted in a delay in the handover of the management of our nuclear labs, forced the government to pay to keep temporary management indefinitely. How much has this miscalculation leading to a Competition Bureau investigation already cost taxpayers?
Answer, Minister.
There is a provision to delay the takeover until
Just the cost, though. How much?
There's none so far.
There's no cost to the taxpayer.
No, till March. My understanding, and what I should do is turn it over to my deputy.
That'll have
or
to
just written response.
That'll have to take place a little later, and we have the officials for an hour. So, Mr. McKinnon, just 2 minutes for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So many questions, so little time. Let's talk about economic reconciliation. As you know, as we all know, it's a priority for our government, and it's extremely important for Canada. Can you explain in these 2 minutes how your work advances economic reconciliation with Indigenous people?
Thank you for the question. It's something that's really near and dear to me in my capacity as the former chair of Hydro One. I saw what well-orchestrated economic reconciliation can do, and I stand by the view is that when we do economic reconciliation, actually engagement and reconciliation in general, it accelerates projects. It doesn't slow them down. And I saw that firsthand in my role at Hydro One, where we were building more transmission lines in Ontario than any other jurisdiction in North America because we were doing it in partnership with First Nations. Specifically to answer your question, what this government is doing is creating an unprecedented opportunity for Indigenous peoples to participate in the economic growth of this country. By building in as one of the 5 objectives to advance reconciliation, by adding the Indigenous Advisory Group that will focus on how we encourage all forms of reconciliation, especially economic reconciliation, and by adding the $10 billion Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program, which we doubled the size of in this last budget, it will create untold opportunities for First Nations. And I'll end by saying, sitting with Chief Campbell at Woodfibre and hearing about what that project will do for his community, sitting with Chief Nice of the Haisla and hearing what the project will do for her community, sitting with Chief Eva Clayton from the Niska and hearing what the projects will do for her community, up at Timmins, at Crawford, and sitting with the chiefs who, when we announced that project was being referred, we got a standing ovation from the 4 different First Nations involved because they know what it means for their community.
Thank you, Minister. So, wrapping up, Mr. Simard, for 1 minute or so, and just time for a brief question and a brief
In 1 minute, very quickly then, Honourable Minister, a no-carbon economy, it's like, going on a diet for a person. There's a pretty simple principle behind it. If you go on a diet, you shouldn't eat any poutine. I mean, there's no diet poutine, is there? I also think it's impossible to have low-carbon oil and gas. It's kind of imaginary. And even the oil and gas companies have told us that, they don't really think it's possible. But in the budget, we see that there will be money for such companies. I'm wondering whether the government is really basing its decisions on clear information, because even for the fossil fuel sector, it seems to be kind of a bit of a pie in the sky. And there doesn't seem to be any business case, to use your vocabulary, for low carbon oil and gas. So is this a fiasco in the making?
I'll start by saying I really like poutine. I'll go for poutine whenever you suggest it. Look, I'll use the example of when I was in Germany, a pretty environmentally responsible country. What the Germans were very clear to me is they view LNG as a transition fuel. At the same time, they said very clearly, given national security, given AI and the dramatic increase in electricity required because of the AI resolution, they will need a lot more LNG, and they will need it for longer. And if they need more and they need it for longer, they would like to buy it from Canada, because we produce the lowest carbon intensity LNG in the world. My view is, hey, if our allies are going to use it and they want it and we can provide the best in the world, Canadians expect us to take advantage of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister, and thank you to colleagues for a very stimulating first hour. Minister, thank you, and we'll let you go, and we'll have your officials for the second hour. And colleagues, we are suspended.
Okay, that's it. We just wanted to cover that for the hour. There's nothing else really that we can switch to. The other committees are kind of boring, and I don't want to sit and watch this without the minister in it. So yeah, we'll be live tomorrow. We've got Patty Haiju in the committee for an hour. Not this committee, but she'll be in HUMA. So we'll watch that, and then after that, we'll tune in for the second hour into OGO. And OGO's talking about the Stellantis contracts because they've requested documents, but Stellantis is refusing to provide them. So we'll watch that, and then we've got question period at 2, and I don't think there's anything really in the afternoon that we're gonna watch. Excuse me, sorry. So yeah, 2 streams tomorrow, 11 a.m. and then 2 p.m. and. Yeah, if you missed the committee this morning, I'm going to go get some clips out on the channel, but it's really good. If you didn't see Brookfield in the committee this morning, it was fantastic to watch. So I recommend that you go and check that out. The stream's there on the channel, but I'll go and get some juicy parts from it. I'm going to put them out on the channel right now. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your evening. And before we go, thank you so much, Daphne, for the super chat. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Wanda, and thanks, Gordon, again for the 10 gifted. Gordon, you're suspended from giving any more gifted memberships for the rest of the month. It's too much from you, man. I do appreciate it, though. I very much appreciate when you guys are supporting the channel, and beyond just watching, it's awesome. But the extra little bit definitely helps. Okay, but other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow, 11 a.m. So, yeah. And I think Carney's going to be in question period, but we haven't got his itinerary yet. So, anyway, have a good rest of your night, guys. Thanks for watching. Cheers.